Good morning, everyone. So today we're going to start on the HUNYUAN Qigong series, and we're going to go into it in great depth. But let's start with a little warm up with the stick first. All right? And the other side. Lee circles. And reverse. And shoe circles. And reverse. And pin circles. And reverse. And reverse. And reverse. Okay, you can put away your sticks. Okay, so we're going to start with HUNYUAN Qigong. Some of you have done some of it, but we're going to go through the entire system, which is 18 moves. Most of them are very simple. This is a simple Qigong, but it is really a profound Qigong. It's the most important class of the week, and it's actually my favorite class too. Um, It's the most yin of all the regular Qigongs. There's Jianzhuang, standing post meditation, and then Fang Zhong Gong, and then Huanyan Qigong. So it's really on the yin side. It's on the side where you're going to be very interior and listening and watching and smelling and feeling your inner chi. And that's one of the reasons why it's such an important class, because this is the class where you have time, because it's slow, and to begin to feel your own chi. So that's called developing Tingjin, listening energy. They use the metaphor of listening through the ear. Um, there's some other reasons that it's more important, but we'll unveil those as time goes on. So what I want the first move. And I'm not going to say anything about it. We're just going to do it. And then we're going to switch into working on one of the main things you need to get to make this work for you, which is the horse stance, a high horse stance. Tomorrow we're going to work on the breathing technique. But today, just horse stance. So let's just start and do this. I'm not going to say a word about it. We're just going to do it. Then we're going to work on the horse stance. Then we're going to do it again. Okay, let's start the discussion about what you're actually doing when you do that move. The first thing I want to talk about is the horse stance, because the horse stance is what you're standing on. And the horse stance for this move is the same as the horse stance for every other move in the routine, or any other move in any other Qigong routine, or any move in Tai Chi. So the horse stance is really important. And we're going to analyze a little bit and then talk about how you structure your body to actually be in a horse stance. And I'm making it sound like it's a big deal. It's not really. It's a very simple thing. But it requires a little energy to get out of sort of normal walking around in the matrix stance into horse stance. And it's important in your practice, whether it's Qigong or Tai Chi or both, to practice this horse stance. So we're going to start by looking at a little slideshow that I made up. It's not the old one. Some of you have seen the old one. This is a new one. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what's actually going on in the horse stance. Now, I'm still trying to figure out how to work this slideshow that I've created. So I'm going to talk over this slideshow, and it may be a total disaster technically, but we'll see what happens. So hold on and let me cue this up. Okay, well, I can't find the slideshow, so we're going to have to go through it this way, just slide by slide. So the horse stance. Either you're on the horse or the horse is on you. All right, so here's a guy riding a horse. Now what you have to do to understand the horse stance is take the horse out of there and just look at the structure of his legs. That's a horse stance, as if you're riding a horse. Now that makes an arch, and it's a particular kind of arch. It's called a catenary arch. All right? A catenary arch comes from the Latin word for a chain. So you can see on this lower register here, they've hung a chain from two nails and just let it hang freely. And that becomes, when it's flipped around, that becomes the catenary arch. And you can see the shape of it. It's very organic. So this has actually been used in architecture for thousands of years. Here's an example. These are the two front doors to one of the apartment buildings in Barcelona designed by Gaudi. And these two arches are catenary arches. In fact, the entire building is full of catenary arches. And I think you can see, looking at them, that they're very organic. They're not like geometric arches with straight sides and a round top. They're continuous arches. And this is why you want to use a catenary arch when you build your horse stance, because what happens with this kind of arch is the load on the arch is distributed equally to all the members of the arch. So it's incredibly strong and stable. Here is a picture from Gaudi's workshop of some catenary chain studies he was doing. These are actually all chains that he hung. If you flip it around on top, it turns into a church that he was building. All right. And here's a much more complex model, and then some of the mathematics, the engineering mathematics that he worked out based on some of these models. Here's the catenary chain, and here's the catenary arch from that. This picture is from that same apartment building that we saw the front doors to. This is the attic. You notice the lights on the floor. That's because tourists come from all over the world to look at Gaudi's architecture. These are all catenary arches. This is just an empty attic at the top of the building, but it's beautiful. Here is a native home being built somewhere in Africa. It's absolutely gorgeous. Look at the texture that they put on the outside of the building, and this is a giant catenary arch. Here is a medieval building somewhere in Iran, and the buttresses are made from catenary arches. The domes are made from catenary arches. And here's a modern version in St. Louis. This is a catenary arch. And here is, didn't mean to get to that one. Here is a modern building somewhere in Southeast Asia made entirely from bamboo. And these are catenary arches. Even in nature, most of these sandstone arches that you see in Arches National Park are catenary arches because they're the strongest kind of arch. So nature just by default goes to that kind of arch. Spider webs are catenary arches. And then if you get to Tai Chi, you get low catenary arches, a very low arch. This is Chen Jun from Chen Village. We're not going to do anything that low. Here's Grandmaster Feng. All right, this is a catenary arch. If you look at it, what you see is his pelvis is really open, and both legs are arched. Even this leg, which is much more straight. If you follow the outside curve, it's really arched. Here's one of his students. This is Madame Gao Fu. What a beautiful stance she has. It's just magnificent.
She was in her 80s then,
She was, when this picture was taken, she was 81 years old. Just gorgeous. And just, there's an old saying about Tai Chi, stand like a mountain. And that's what she looks like. She looks like a mountain. I was taken up in Seattle. She had emigrated from China to Seattle to teach the American barbarians Tai Chi. Here's my teacher, Master Zhang. This is more like what we're going to do. This is a high horse stance. But you'll notice that there's still this arch in what he's doing. So his pelvis is open and his knees are rounded outward. And here's a nice picture of Master Feng. It's the only time I've seen him smile when he's doing Tai Chi, so somebody just told him a joke. But again, you see there's still the arch. Right, so that concludes that.
That was lovely.
I've seen all those in Barcelona in person, and they're just absolutely stunning.
Gaudi has been gone for a number of years now, but people come from all over the world to look at Gaudi's architecture. And Jack, what's the name of the cathedral again?
Sagrada Familia.
Sagrada Familia.
That's supposed to be finished I think next year.
They said that like 3 years ago. Don't hold your breath. I'm waiting for the scaffolding to come down to go to Barcelona.
Well, I think it's probably something like the reconstruction of Notre Dame in Paris, where they're going to have a big celebration. I think this fall sometime, But actually, it's only 80% done. They're still going to be working on it probably for a number of years, but I think it's like they can't wait forever. They got to have the celebration, right? Catherine, do you know when the celebration is?
Yeah, changing the date every month, so I don't know. But when you go by, I mean, it's kind of advanced. I'm surprised
Yeah.
that they went so fast. Actually, you still have scaffolding, but really, I mean, compared to 2 years ago, it's amazing what they did. Really.
Well, I've watched a couple of short documentaries on it, and boy, they got an army of
They got
artists
busy.
and artisans to fix this. So I think
Definitely.
it's gonna be pretty wonderful when it's done. But exactly when it's done, it's probably going to be another 10 years before it's really all finished up. Anyway, I hope you got an idea from that that when you do Tai Chi and you do Qigong, you should always be in a horse stance, right? It can be really low, right? So you can be in a low horse stance, you can be in a medium horse stance, or you can be in a high horse stance, but they're all horse stances. So what does that mean? What do you have to do? Okay, so follow my instructions. We're going to do a horse stance. By the way, how many of you have ever ridden on a horse before? Raise your hand. All right, everybody's been on a horse before. That's a horse stance, right? You have to sit down, but you have to sit down in a certain way. So first, put your feet in the stirrups, right? And what's going to happen is your toes are going to point out slightly, right? Your toes are never going to be straight because the horse is in the way. You cannot close your knees because there's a horse there. So you have to open your toes, and that helps you open your knees, right? And by open, I mean my right knee is going to the right, my left knee is going to the left. So it makes you like a little bow-legged. That opens your pelvis, and that's really what you're trying to get at, is to open the pelvis. And then just sit down slightly, just an inch or two. Just sit down, right? It's very bouncy, right? Boom. Now, I'm always in a horse stance, but I'm so used to it that I don't even think about it. When you do the exercises, you want to be in that position with your legs open for a very simple reason. Whenever you do any exercise in Qigong, whenever you do any exercise in Tai Chi, you always go back and forth from one foot to the other foot, right? In every cycle. So you're always involving the feet and the legs and the pelvis. That means you're moving your chi. You're moving your chi, in this case, right, from the right foot to the left foot, and then back to the right foot, and then to the left foot, etc. And you don't want anything to get in the way of the flow of your chi. That means your pelvis has to be open. It has to be unlocked and open at the top of one leg leading to the other leg. All right? The danger comes in when folks who don't know do something called a jiandang. Jian means an arrowhead, so like this, right? An arrowhead. Dong, this is your dong. It's your groin, but it's also the top of your legs, etc. Jiandang means you have an arrow-shaped pelvic area, dong, right? That sharp point, it makes it very difficult for the chi to get from one leg to another. Right? The chi, your chi in your body does not like to go through sharp angles. Think of the water piping in your house. They don't put sharp angles in the water piping because it will almost stop the flow of water. Instead, you want a nice round shape going from foot to foot. That's called a yuandang. All right. So that's easy. Now that she flows from side to side. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Let me draw it on the board just to make sure it's clear. So what you want is a nice round arch like that, the catenary arch. What you do not want is something like that. And you think, well, who would stand like that? Okay, I'm going to tell you who will stand like that. This gets at one of the most important principles of Qigong and Tai Chi. People stand like this by closing their pelvis, right? Watch. Why would I close my pelvis? You close your pelvis because it gives you a kind of strength. But it's a brittle kind of strength.
A stiff kind of strength.
It's stiff. In other words, what you're doing is you're stiffening up your body in order to stand. Maybe you're waiting for a bus, right? And the bus is supposed to be there 5 minutes ago, but it takes another 20 minutes for it to get there. What some people do is they lock all this. They lock their knees, they lock their pelvis,
yeah.
and then they stand there, and those locked joints give them a kind of brittle strength.
But easily pushed over.
Well, it's very easily pushed over, exactly, right? So, yeah, come here and push me, right? I'm all locked up. Right? I can't flex. I can't respond to her. All right? Now try it again. All right?
Malcolm,
Yeah.
it's also true when you're on the bus. So if you're just like standing and you're rigid, then you like it's easy to fall. Otherwise, you can like,
Absolutely. You're right, Rand. That's actually in a way a better example, because when you're on a bus and you have to stand, and for some reason every time I've been on a bus I've had to stand, you're getting thrown around. So you're having to respond all the time. If you stand stiffly, right, that's going to be really uncomfortable and even dangerous. Instead, you need to get into that horse stance, and then as the bus bounces around, you've got the flexibility to respond appropriately to what's going on. All right, let's do the first move again. Let me explain what you're doing. What you're doing is very simple, but it's a really good, it's always the first move. You're opening the body, opening your ankles, your knees, your pelvis, all right? Your trunk, all right? So you're coming up into your tanjong. Open the palms of the hands and sort of magnetically gather fresh chi from the whole cosmos and breathe it into the top of your head, and then let it gently settle, wash through the body, washing all the organs of the body, picking up any tension or discomfort, and then you're breathing it out the bottom of the feet. Watch my knees. go down, my knees do not go forward. They go outward at 45 degrees. Just like you're riding a horse. Come up into the... Now drop from the center chest into the lower back. Open the knees. All right, and then after we've done the first move, you do 3 Taiji Qigong moves. Same pattern. Open the chest, gather Qi, sink it to the Dan Chen, drop into the lower back. Center chest, lower back. And relax. Yeah, Kevin.
When you're going down all the way, is your back straight or is it bent? Or because you can't tell looking at you from the front.
Your back should be pretty straight. You do not want to hump your back like a whale. All right, so you don't want to do this. All right. You want to keep your back pretty straight. So you're bending from the waist, not from the back. A little bit from the back, but not very much. All right. Now, before we finish, let's do it wrong. We're going to do it wrong. I want you to feel what it feels like when you do it wrong. All right, lock your knees up. Lock your pelvis. All right? I'm going to kind of clamp everything down. Oh, that's unpleasant.
Very unpleasant.
One more.
I'm not doing it wrong.
What's that?
I'm not doing it wrong, and you can't
You
make
can't.
it.
Okay, right, and let's do one the right way. All right, so open the pelvis, open the knees, sit down a little bit, just relax. Okay, and 3 Tai Chi Qigongs.
I do pay attention to opening my spine one at a time, one vertebrae at a time when I'm coming up.
Okay, so tomorrow we're going to work on the breathing technique because the breath work is very important with this. Not just this move, but all the moves in Hunyuan Tai Chi. And this is the place to practice Taoist breath work, sometimes called reverse yogic breathing. So we're going to talk about that in depth as far as what's going on with your physiology when you do that. And we'll incorporate that. And then hopefully the last half of the hour, we can actually practice without me talking too much. You have to have these learning sessions to figure out what's going on. But those are different from actual practice sessions. And I want to do some actual practice sessions because I want you to really feel it. This is a really strong Qigong if you can get mentally into the right place, which means I need to shut up and we need just to do these exercises. Okay, any questions? Barbara, is that a question?
Just a comment, something that you said in the past about the horse stance, which I think is pretty useful, is that you're kind of like sitting down. Like you really are like, yeah, like when you like exactly what Annie is doing.
Yeah.
Like in a sense,
Yes.
you're just like it's
Yeah.
almost like you're sitting on like a high chair, but you're not.
High stool, yeah.
Exactly. So you are. It's like you're sitting down on a horse, right? That's a good point to bring up, Rand. However, when you do that, you have to do something else. You can't let everything in the body go down because you'll lose your stature, you'll lose your seat if you do that. So, yes, your chi, which is heavy, wants to go down, but your spirit, which is light, wants to go up. So both of them are happening at the same time. So you might actually, when you sit down, you might actually get taller. Right?
You can feel it internally, a kind of stretching.
There's a kind of stretching that happens. It stretches the spine so that the heavy, watery chi is dropping, the light, fiery chi is going up, and it stretches the spine. Yeah, Kevin.
So is your Ming Mun open or closed when you're seated in the horse stance?
When you normally, if you're just standing in the horse stance, then your Ming Mun should be open, right? Not closed. When you come up into your center chest as you're gathering, now my Ming Mun is closed. Now it's open. Closed. Open. It's pretty simple. When the lower back is in a little bit, that as I'm coming up into my chest, so I'm gonna close my lower back. That's closing the Ming Mun. All right. When I drop out of the center chest down into the Ming Mun, it goes out the other direction and relaxes, and that's open. Other questions? We'll talk more about that issue tomorrow because it's actually really important. Okay, guys, that's lesson number one. We're just going to keep going until we've got the whole thing. But these principles that I talked about today are good for all the moves. And tomorrow we'll get a little bit more practice in.